I work as a cameraman traveling around Europe mainly, and one of the things that happens when you travel is you often meet kind of weird, strange people, and you're not sure what's going on, but you never have time to actually figure out what could have been going on anyway. You're just sure there was some strange logic you're unaware of. And in this particular instance, I was on a pub crawl in Munich. And pub crawls, has anyone been on a pub crawl? They're just kind of like really full of like, wah, wah, wah. And there's never any girls on them. It's just kind of, and in this one, it was just 6 guys. And it was horrible, you know, but it was really boring at the start, but I could see there was just this one guy. Everyone was nice, except this one guy, there was just something odd about him, there was something off. He kind of, physically, he was this huge guy with a giant, he kind of looked like, you know early computer games where they just put 2 shapes on top of each other and it walks around? He kind of looked like 2 triangles. He had this huge torso, triangular, and then this thin little triangular head that kind of looked like the 7-Up man. And he kind of, the thing that struck me about him was I never heard him say anything that wasn't about his hometown, Winnipeg. He loved Winnipeg. He kept, anytime you talked to him about anything, you know, what are you drinking, he'd bring it back to Winnipeg. And this got on everyone's nerves after a while because we were stuck with them for the night, you know. And eventually, we were on our way to the metro, down an escalator, and he just suddenly, everyone was silent, and he just suddenly looked up, he goes, I don't know what everyone's problem is with Winnipeg. And we all looked around, you know, and I just said, no one's annoyed with Winnipeg, it's fine, you know. I said, you know, the only thing I ever heard about Winnipeg, frankly, is Winnie the Pooh comes from Winnipeg. That's the only fact. Winnie the Pooh is a bear that was in London Zoo, taken from Winnipeg. The creator of Winnie the Pooh saw it, thought, ooh, I'll start a cartoon. Only fact I knew. And he looked down, he's like, yeah, but you're from Ireland, aren't you? I was like, yeah, I'm from Ireland. And then, just as I turn around, I suddenly feel a little jolt on my back. And he's tried to push me down an escalator. Slightly. But I steady myself, he just yells, he's like, your dad's unemployed and your mother drinks whiskey every morning. And I was like, how does he know my family so well? It's uncanny. But I decided, I was the tiniest person probably in the world at that point. It definitely felt that way, and I was on the ground, so I was like, I'll just leave it, you know. So we got on the metro, and we were all chatting, get along okay, and then he got up, and you know, we were all standing up around, and he was sitting down, he got up and walked up to us. And you know, after silence, he's like, I just want to say again, everyone should get off Winnipeg's back. And we're all like, oh God, you know. So he said, listen, nobody is saying anything about Winnipeg, it's fine. He said, I mean, industrially it's very strong, unemployment is low, it's a great place to visit. And finally one guy just said, because you start trying to rib somebody about this. And he said, I had a girlfriend who used to be from Winnipeg, she used to live there, and she said she never left her sector. And the guy, the huge triangular man, just looked down and he was like, well, fuck her. And we all kind of looked around. And the guy tried to make light of it. You know when something's really tense, someone tries to make a joke as a kind of olive branch in the conversation, and he said, oh, well, that's what I was doing. And then the people laughed a tiny bit, but the man from Winnipeg just looked down and he was like, yeah, funny. Which just kind of froze everyone. And so we just kind of, we just sat there in silence till eventually the man from Winnipeg started again. He's like, he just said, another thing, when we were back at the pub, you faggots were just standing around like pussies, talking to each other. I was talking to a girl about Winnipeg. And finally, this one guy who was sitting there, and he started talking, and unfortunately for this guy, in this situation, he had a really heavy lisp. So he goes, oh well, this, good for you, well, what's so great about that? Well done. And the guy from Winnipeg just looked down, and you could see him just freeze. Like the whole train, I looked up, and the whole train was rocking, but he was like a stone obelisk, just staring down. And then after a moment, when he let it all sink in, he kind of looked down and he just went, huh? You have a lisp? "You dare to make fun of Winnipeg?" And it was like, I don't know. You know when something so stupid happens, you can't even grasp the logic of it. We all kind of looked around trying to figure out how you would potentially even say anything to that. It was kind of like, I was thinking at the time, it was kind of like we'd been hit by a meteor of stupidity. And it kind of knocked us all out of orbit. And eventually when we all got back into our regular orbit, someone just clicked and was like, that makes no sense. And they said, that makes no sense. He was born with a lisp, I imagine. And your man nodded. And, you weren't born. And your man just stopped him, the man from Winnipeg, with a look. And he just went, "I was born with Winnipeg." And again, we just had to sit back. It was the most stunning stupidity I'd ever seen. And, we all looked around again and we were just, the moment was so tense, and the guy, his eyes were just jiggling in his head with anger, and there was a big vein pumping out. And, so finally somebody said, "This is absurd, we're all from Canada here. All of us except the Irish guy," and he seems grand. We don't need to, we're all from Canada. And the man from Winnipeg stopped him and said, "Yeah, we're all Canadians from Canada. Let's settle this in Munich." And so finally, he was tensing up to start fighting everybody in defense of his maiden Winnipeg. And we were all, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was getting my camera ready to film it when finally the guy who was running the pub crawl just ran up to him, and he just said, "Listen, I'll give you back all your money. I'll even give you a $5 on top of that. Just leave. Just stay on the subway. Don't come back with us for the rest of it. We'll be fine." And so eventually the guy just looked around and said, "I wouldn't want to hang out with these faggots anyway." And we all got off. But I remember looking back, and the only thought I could have on reflection with it, as I saw him he was kind of whisked away by the metro, and he was still standing, staring out of the metro window at us as he went. But it was kind of like he was being flushed away by the train, or kind of like, when you put money in a little chute, and then it just whisks away. And the only thing I could think was like, God, public transport's really great. So as I said, I never understood it. I don't know what was going on. Has anyone been to Winnipeg? Out of curiosity? No. Okay.